It's a day that has been put together so that different people with different backgrounds, different origins can come together and just enlighten and empower you.
You could give the world your ideas or solutions that can help humanity.
Loss of family members, loss of jobs, loss of livelihood.
The cries that erupted from our nation for a final end to the gender-based violence pandemic.
Why do people hurt the environment to live on?
Pause, reflect, renew, revive.
Rethink about what I should do in life.
All about connecting and slowing down, taking time for ourselves and our families.
See how your creativity and connectivity can help bring back society or redefine society.
We need to take better care of ourselves in terms of self-care mentally.
And when you start there, you start to feel love for yourself, love for others.
Is there someone you know who needs magic hand?
What kind of messages we want to pass on to the next generation?
We took this call to action to the youth of South Africa.
I can contribute to some things on how to help people with chronic illnesses or hidden disability.
But through conversation and speeches, we can instill hope and confidence in people's lives.
In collaboration with the University of Houston, Houston Community College, Stafford Municipal School District, Sugarland Toastmasters Club, and the Ismaili Professionals Network, the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center is pleased to present World Speech Day 2021. World Speech Day is commemorated every year on March 15th across the globe in over 100 countries. This year's World Speech Day theme is Humanity at Crossroads. We celebrate the role of speeches in bringing communities together and, above all, in sharing ideas. The purpose of World Speech Day is to promote speech-making across all levels of society. The World Speech Day organization even provides materials for their speakers to get better at public speaking, and some event hosts even have speaker trainings in schools and communities. This virtual World Speech Day is being held at the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center in Sugarland, Texas. Ismaili Jamatkanas around the world are, in addition to being places of worship and spiritual search, are places of community engagement. As His Highness the Aga Khan, spiritual leader of the Ismaili Muslims, has said, these are places where Ismailis and non-Ismailis, Muslims and non-Muslims, gather together for shared activities, seminars and lectures, recitals and receptions, exhibitions and social events. But they will also, we trust, be filled with the sounds of enrichment, dialogue, and warm human rapport, as Ismailis and non-Ismailis share their lives in a healthy, gregarious spirit. These spaces hope to encourage community engagement and collaboration, in addition to being places to broaden intellectual horizons and foster an appreciation of pluralism through arts and cultural events. I'd also like to introduce Ms. Zakia Lalani, the United States Ambassador for this World Speech Day 2021.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to represent as a USA Ambassador for World Speech Day and welcome you all at the World Speech Day 2021, Humanity at Crossroads. On the behalf of the World Speech Day, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center for providing the platform, and to our esteemed collaborators for making this day possible. Enjoy the program. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Alina Ali. Mankind is faced with a multitude of problems every day. From food wastage to corruption, we are ridden with these situations. Humanity is at its crossroads, and before society gets completely divided, we must address some of the most urgent issues, including war, discrimination, and climate change. Unfortunately, in today's society, discrimination is still a persistent, worldwide issue. Whether this be because of race, gender, religion, class, age, or education, the impact is the same. Discrimination undermines equal opportunity in all sectors of life, along with harming individuals. Broad-scale racism also impacts the way of living of millions of people. For example, the Hispanics being called racial slurs, the Chinese experiencing violence and being blamed for COVID-19, or dark-skinned individuals being subjected to irrational violence or injustice. To solve many of our other world problems, it is crucial to take this first step and overcome discrimination so we can work together for a better tomorrow. Along with other factors, discrimination can oftentimes lead to war. War is prominent everywhere in today's society. One country is fighting with another, who is fighting with another, who is in turn fighting with yet another. There is no escaping it. The looming threat of war in this increasingly armed and nuclear-enforced society is extremely frightening, especially for those living in areas of or near war zones. Innocent lives are subject to danger as a result of political and economic greed. With war, what we call civilization is not so civilized at all. In addition to these characteristics, war contributes to the devastating effects of climate change. At one end, a lush, green future on Earth, sustaining life for hundreds of thousands of years. On the other, the devastation of Earth being pushed to its breaking point, unable to support our future generations. The choice is for humankind to make. Do we ignore or persist in alleviating the effects of climate change? If the former is chosen, we and our future will be presented with rising temperatures, catastrophic weather events, melting ice caps, flooding, a large influx in economic spending, burning of crops, and many other adverse effects. If the latter is chosen, we will be living happily and comfortably for the foreseeable future. Some things we will have to implement in large sectors are making daily life commuting clean and green, being more energy efficient, and recycling. Switching from fossil fuels to renewable resources is the most important step and can cause a large impact on the environment by reducing the emission of a plethora of harmful greenhouse gases. By implementing these actions, we can slowly but surely start fighting climate change. This is the time to start working towards the future of humanity, the future of our kind. Taking these steps, springing into action, making this decision to choose humanity is what will prepare us to survive and will enable our future generations to continue our work and better our home. Thank you.
Making a difference starts small. I realized a small group has the power to radically change lives by meeting people's needs. This setting fosters personal and spiritual growth, which in turn builds relationships. The small group is a place where people can bring big problems and find a lot of love and compassion. The Wings Ministry was born in January 2015 out of my desire and passion to help women of all ages to reach their full potential. This small group's ministry's mission is one of discovery, development, and deployment. It provides a safe place for women in my Sunday school class to bring their work-related concerns, family and/or relationship issues, even their dreams and desires. The group offers nurturing, guidance, and most importantly, listening. We gather Thursday evenings, which is called our Nest Time, for open and honest conversations. We also engage in Bible and secular study, fellowship, and outreach. The power of our small group is helping women live big lives. The journey of rookie officer Gloria is an amazing small group, big life story. Gloria, an unwed mother, had been homeless on many occasions. She was a partner in an unhealthy relationship and faced lots of work-related issues because of a quick temper. Despite numerous challenges, with her son in tow, she made her way to the nest every Thursday. There she experienced the transforming power of a small group that allowed her to reach her goal of joining HPD. The fruit of the Wings ministry is seen in Gloria and all of the women who received job promotions. It's in the ones who graduated college and boot camp. It's also seen in those who formed healthy relationships, strengthened families, and birthed ministries. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe in the power of small groups. If you want to make a big difference, start small.
You become what you think about. Do you think I'm kidding? Well, think again. There are thousands, if not millions of people, biblical scholars, all say that words like ask and ye shall receive actually mean something. Buddha even suggested that the mind is everything. What you think, you become. Ralph Waldo Emerson took it one step further and he said, you become what you think about all day long. I want to talk for a minute about a famous author that wrote a book a little over 100 years ago. Napoleon Hill was challenged by one of the richest men in history to find what is it that successful men and women have in common. And he wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. And see, what he identified is that there's about 13 things that all successful men and women have in common. And I'm not going to talk about all 13. I want to talk about one. And that's the principle of autosuggestion. Autosuggestion. What you think about, what you tell yourself every day, it means something. And what he found is one of those 13 essential elements is that every successful person has the component of self-affirmation, of telling themselves, literally creating their own future. And so I ask you, what do you think about on a daily basis? Do you fill yourself up with positive thoughts, with belief, or do you tell yourself something else? I want to also talk a little bit about a concept called transmutation. Think about an engine. An engine takes gasoline and converts it to motion. That converts to where you want to or need to go. Your mind works in a very similar way, which to say you have an idea, a thought, a belief, and that idea or thought translates into a solution, translates into action. It translates into a better place to live and a better world. You have that power. You have that ability. And the beauty of autosuggestion, the beauty of transmutation is you have the choice of what you think about and what you tell yourself on a daily basis. So on this World Speech Day, I'm hoping that I'm connecting to you right now. And you might be thinking, I can't make a difference. I don't know how to make a difference. And I would challenge your belief. Because look at the biblical scholars, look at people in your faith, and look at people throughout history who have all affirmed what you tell yourself on a daily basis matters. You want to change the world? Think about it. Believe you can. Transmute that belief into action, and you can do it. Thank you.
In his 1967 book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. cites an example of a future plot in the papers found after the death of a famous novelist. The plot was, a widely separated family inherits a house in which they have to live together. Dr. King adds, and I quote, "This is a great new problem of mankind. We have inherited a large house, a great world house in which we have to live together. Black and white, Easterner and Westerner, Gentile and Jew, Catholic and Protestant, Muslim and Hindu. A family unduly separated in ideas, culture, and interests, who, because we can never again live apart, must learn somehow to live with each other in peace. End of quote. Today, as humanity stands at the crossroads, learning to live together in this world house demands that we address a malaise even harder than COVID-19. That affliction of humanity is the empathy deficit disorder. According to former President Barack Obama, the biggest deficit that we have in our society and in the world right now is an empathy deficit. We are in great need of people being able to stand in somebody else's shoes and see the world through their eyes. Addressing that empathy deficit will allow us to live with harmony in that house of humanity. Empathy is an essential part of humanity. Allow me to go a step further and say that empathy, the emotional and the moral imagination that allows us to put ourselves in the shoes of other people, is what makes us human. Lack of empathy is the inability to feel with another person and failure to sense what they are experiencing. Sadly, human brutality, oppression, and cruelty are all results of a lack of empathy. It's a lack of empathy that makes someone capable of attacking, robbing, oppressing another human being. It's a lack of empathy for another nation, which makes warfare possible. It's a lack of empathy towards other ethnic groups, social classes, or castes that makes inequality possible. The good news is, as Maya Angelou once said, I think we all have empathy. We may not have enough courage to display it. Yes, it requires courage to make a psychic and emotional connection with another person, feel with them by actually entering into their mind space. When we experience real empathy and subsequent compassion, our identity merges with another person, and the separatedness between us and the other person fades away. Our hope for living, nay, surviving in this world house lies in cultivating empathy to re-establish the balance in our lives through personal integrity and social justice. Without the spiritual and moral awakening, we are in danger of taking a wrong turn at the crossroads that we are at. Empathy will help us to go in the right direction.
Ladies and gentlemen, how do you see people these days? Do you see people stronger? Do you see people safer? Do you see people better? As we journey on in life, we understand that our deepest strengths are not when we are apart, but when we come together in ways we uniquely can. How we see people is not indicative of who they are, but how we see people will tell us a lot about ourselves. If we perceive somebody solely through the way that they dress, the color of their skin, whether they have a certain accent or not, the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves is, why do we think it that way? Our organs of sensory perception are not limited to the eyes that we see with, the heart that we feel with, the hands that we touch with, the eyes that we see with, even with the minds that we think with. But you and I have a primary organ of cognition that will synthesize all these information as it goes into us. Do you get what I'm saying? No, I don't get what I'm saying. Let me give you an example. A blind woman just told me I was short. We had this conversation, and as we wrapped up, she said to me, you know, I thought you'd be a lot taller. So I said, what? And she said, your voice. It's not coming from up here, but it's coming from down here. So I said, oh. And one of my colleagues said, isn't that remarkable? A blind woman just told you you are short. And I said, yeah, that's amazing. But inside me, I was thinking, man, how short could I be? A blind woman told me I'm short. She did not need eyes to see. Did you get that? She did not need eyes to see. Sometimes we take the most simplistic level of understanding because what we are seeing is everything that we see, and that is all that we see. But we are not getting into the depths of certain realities. So today, as we reflect, let us ask ourselves, what will somebody need to look like for me to not be there for them? What will the color of their skin need to be? What will the texture of their hair will have to be? What part of the world will they need to come from so that my education, my training, my skills will not be used for their benefit? Today, stand when everyone else is sitting. Speak when everyone else is silent, because you might be that voice, that critical body that could ignite everyone else. Today, make an affirmation that your growth for every tomorrow that you see, for every human that you speak with, for every capacity that you serve, you will learn the stories of those who are different by actually being with them. And that you can give others the benefit of your presence. Love, it always protects us from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Let your successes of today be the first of many. Go forward and continue to be the reason that people have hope in this world and never the reason that people dread it. I'm so happy to be involved in this event today, and I would be excited to see what else we all can accomplish here, there, and everywhere together. Have a nice day, everyone.
The greatness in humanity is not in being human, but being humane. This is a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. Over the course of the last year, have you ever wondered what actually triggered the virus? There are several theories floating around, from it tracing back to that little bat that was found in a busy market in Wuhan. Have you ever wondered, how did the bat get there? Why did the bat get there? We as humans have been taking so much from nature that we don't realize that we have been pushing out our wildlife, chasing them out of their natural habitats. And as a result, a bat ends up in a busy market in Wuhan, carrying a virus. Regardless of the theory, I think there's a fact there. We need to do something, as our humanity is at its crossroads. We need to make a difference. We've been so busy just taking from nature, taking from the earth, from the environment. We've been so busy building high rises, building reservoirs, building tunnels, building infrastructure, that we don't realize that it all comes at a cost. Over the course of the last few years, we've heard about tsunamis, which are basically caused by the tectonic plates. We have heard about volcanoes, earthquakes, and so much more. And this is all nature's way of telling us that it is hurting. that we need to preserve humanity, that we need to make a change. What can we do? We can give back by planting trees, use sustainable energy sources, use sustainable methods of farming, support those farmers, support your local produce, help recycle, and we can do so much more. Our humanity is truly at crossroads, and we can all make a difference, one person at a time, because we all want to leave behind a legacy for our children to call their own. And the UN has said this at length in one of the publications that it just produced. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zora Birani, and for World Speech Day, I wanted to talk about something important. I wanted to talk about the do's and don'ts of talking to deaf or hard of hearing people. Do try to learn some basic sign language like thank you, you're welcome, please, my name is, and nice to meet you. Simple sentences you can learn online for free or through some sign language books or even take classes. This makes them feel happy that you learn how to communicate with them. Do not try to mouth out words. Just like you probably can't read lips, they probably can't either. Do write what you need to say on a piece of paper if you need to. Hopefully, all this information helped a lot. Stay safe.
First of all, I'm very thankful to the Ismaili Jamatkhana for extending this honor to me to speak today on the theme Humanity at Crossroads. My topic is Humanity on the Cross. Today, humanity is straddling on the cross, at the crossroads of unfolding expanse of sciences and humanities, increasingly mutilating the very complexion of human being and being human. Today, some of the biggest challenges to the very survival of humanity emerge mainly from the man's own making, that is, through reasoning and research. For example, the artificial intelligence and the genetics with the immense potential to re-engineer the behavioral and physical frame of mankind. Critical thinkers like Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Huttenlocher are apprehending even end of enlightenment, and Henry Kissinger goes on further to warn that artificial intelligence will fundamentally alter human consciousness. The ascent of advancement without laws of regulating social gravity has the potential to catapult mankind into virtual culture, tending further into virtual civilization to virtual life. That's it. It could mean the termination of human evolution into a non-human virtual entity, not a human living being. Fiction of today may be science of tomorrow. In the 21st century, mankind is facing these existential challenges along with the sufferings of all sorts, from moral decadence, wars, poverty, hunger to diseases, and so on. The worst of all is the accelerating process of dehumanization. Devouring the human being, that is, the state of being humane, is dissolving, which otherwise is supposed to hold human beings together in its compassionate cast. Humanity is threatened all around, over the globe, whether it be traditional, trade, or finance policies of great powers, or the state of human rights in different countries where the humanity has been forgotten or relegated in the name of national interest, power politics, and insatiable greed of all kinds. Without losing further time, the mankind has to make conscious decisions today on preferences for humanity over race, peace over war, compassion over callousness, affluence along with humanity, not without humanity, distinct from animality, and modernity along with human morality.
Hello, my name is Jesus, and today I'll be talking about diversity and strength. There is a quote that Kamala Harris once said that our unity is our strength and diversity is our power. I believe this quote is very true. I would first like to start off when I was born. I was born in Mexico, Acapulco. When I was born with a disease which is called clubfoot and charcoal maroon tooth disease. What that disease is where both of your feet are turned inwards and towards one another. So it's really hard for kids who have this disease to be able to walk. I struggle a lot because due to my disease, my mother wasn't able to take care of me, and she gave me away to my guardian, which was my grandmother. And with my grandmother, my dad wasn't able to take care of me, so we tried our best to find a cure for my disease. Unfortunately, the hospitals in Mexico weren't very prepared at that time and didn't know much about this disease, so we struggled a lot until we were able to find a cure for it, a treatment which was in the United States of America, which happened in Shiner's Hospital here in Houston. When I came to this new country, I was very nervous at first because I didn't know the language. But overall, overcoming these language barriers, I still had to deal with a lot of diversity and unity as I was struggling to grow up. With diversity, since I wasn't able to speak and my culture was very different, it was really hard to have things in common with people, but I really tried my best. And during my disability, I did conquer a lot of things that were not with unity. I know definitely I was put into separate classes because I was in a different teaching method than the other students. I know I had to go through special ed classes, and also because I had some surgeries done to myself. In order to be able to walk, I wasn't being able to catch up to my peers. It was really hard to catch up to them and have things in common, especially for a kid who is really different from the rest. I just struggle a lot with finding common ground with the kids because I know they would play sports and they would do other things that would require physical activity, and I wasn't able to accomplish that. However, that didn't stop me, and I always wanted to try my best, and I always try to fit in. Looking back at it, I think that it isn't the right choice because you shouldn't try to fit in with what society wants you. I believe it's okay to be different, and I just didn't know that at a time. moving forward to junior high, I started, since I was very bullied in elementary because of how different I was and how I would walk differently until age 7 when I was able to not use a wheelchair anymore. Kids would really pick on me for it. As I got to junior high, I started to feel ashamed of who I was and my disability. So I started to hide my orthotics. I would never wear shorts. One of my family members told me if I show that I could be normal just as the rest of the kids, I wouldn't be picked on. I believe that is not the case, and it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't really hide just because you're afraid of what society thinks of you or how society views you as. As I started high school, I started to really think about myself. Why am I really down on myself? Why am I ashamed of who I am? That shouldn't be the case. One of my teachers perceived me and asked me if I wanted to join a club, which was called the Best Buddies Club, which was a club to help find friends for kids in special needs with disabilities. I wasn't sure if I was up to the task at first, but I decided to agree, and I thought to myself, if I can bring happiness and find these kids friends, maybe I can find some common reliefs amongst myself, saying, hey, maybe bringing happiness to others might help me towards the end. So I decided to take the task. Yes, I helped a lot of students try to find friends, and it made me feel good about myself. I think helping out people, it really helped me as well, because when I was helping those special need kids find friends and common ground that they had with regular ed students, it really helped me myself. It gave me hope in humanity also. It helped me think, wow, maybe we're not so different from one another, and we can really find common ground. I did that for 4 years, and after I started my journey at my college, when I signed up, I was still unsure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to make friends, and that's when I decided to join the student government, because what I can do there is find ways to help students. Rather, it is students with disabilities, students who are going through the same struggles any college student is going through. As they are first generation, they're really trying to find themselves. I realized I could help those students be themselves and help them with any way as possible, rather doing events or things to help them out. And sometimes I really think about what I want to be as I'm pursuing my career. I really think I want to be an occupational therapist because I want to be able to help out students who go through the same struggles with me. I know it's a challenge due to my physical disability, and when you apply to many schools still reject students with disabilities because they are unsure when you enter the program if you could put in harm's way another patient while you're doing your clinicals. However, I don't think that's the case. I think schools should really consider accepting these students that are different and are diverse and bring them in as a unity and try to work with them, because a lot of people with disabilities can bring a lot to their workforce, such as understanding patients, being able to help their peers say, hey, I went through this and this is what we can do to better understand patients. And the world is changing, and we should always strive to be our best. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, I'm Ashmo Lalani. Today's theme is humanity at a crossroad. But when I was first given this topic, I wasn't quite sure what to say, because I get that humanity at a crossroad is this idea that a society or a group of people come to realize a decision that could create a revolution of some sort. But I still could not dig deep enough to understand what this phrase meant. because it is so generic yet abstract. Humanity at a crossroad? That's when I remembered a poem I read in high school. The poem is called The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost and was composed in 1915. Although this poem was meant as a joke that Frost wrote for his friends in college, it really struck me and created connection to the theme of humanity at a crossroad. Allow me to recite it for you today. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost is a story of an individual traveling in the woods, and they come across two paths. In this idea, it is that in this single moment, a single decision had to be made. It is the thoughts that this traveler has when trying to figure out which way is the right way. It's a simplistic version of how the choice of one person in one event could create a domino effect that becomes a historical movement, or at least feeds a new perspective for society to recognize. The word that really got me was in the last line of the first stanza, undergrowth, because its literal meaning is a dense growth of plants on the ground. But the way I perceive this word, I look back to when I was younger, still growing and trying to perceive the world around me. When you're unsure of what you want your future to be, when you are debating whether some traditions are limiting your potential, when you realize you have to make a decision right now that has to create a lasting impact. It's in the third stanza that the traveler looks back at a decision that they made when they were at their crossroad and contemplates whether they made the right decision or not. It's common to reflect and assume regrets, like what if I chose the other path instead? When talking about historical movements and identifying the one crossroad that started them, like Rosa Parks' decision to stay seated for the civil rights movement in the 1960s, or the creation of Amazon that transformed the way society perceives shopping today. By reading this poem, I realized that my role is to define and understand the phrase, humanity at a crossroad, instead of jumping ahead to topics that only puzzled me. Because it is once we discover the meaning of the initial crossroad that we are able to travel forward and learn about the dominoes that fall afterward. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Indeed, humanity is at crossroads. We are at an intersection wherein the manifestation of our dreams for equal representation in the midst of diversity is gradually becoming a reality. A point where the struggle to embrace diversity by both young and old in all races of life has birthed the first female Black Vice President of the United States in the person of Kamala Harris. A dream where a young Black girl like Amanda Gorman can give a reverberating speech that will be imprinted in the sands of time. A time where a Latino singer, Jennifer Lopez, can boldly lend her voice in honor of our beloved national anthem. And in these defining moments, in these times, we've learned that quiet isn't always peace, as emphasized in Amanda Gorman's inaugural poem titled The Hill We Climb. Hence, we must continue to amplify our voices, raise our voices much more higher so that our values, our uniqueness, and our strengths can be seen beyond the attires we wear, beyond the styles that adorn our hair, and most importantly, beyond the color of our skin. A time where justice must truly prevail. Thank you.
Almost 60 years ago, Martin Luther King left us with these famous words, "I have a dream." I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out its true meaning of its creed. Recently, humanity was once again at crossroads with George Floyd's line, "I can't breathe." In his first public speech, presidential candidate Joe Biden began with, "I can't breathe." I can't breathe. George Floyd's last words. But they didn't die with him. They're still being heard. I can't breathe. These words have become a rallying cry and another facet of humanity in the midst of a global pandemic. Anti-maskers have used the same slogan to resist mandatory mask wearing. Across our nation, more than 500,000 deaths have been reported by the CDC, with the same familiar echoes of "I can't breathe." We have been watching humanity at crossroads yet again. Although the United Nations have identified 17 most urgent global issues, with poverty being number one, most pressing issue in our nation's current time, the commitment to eradicate poverty has been on the radar for generation to generation. With the latest slogan, "Let's take action and end poverty and hunger everywhere by 2030. And it doesn't stop there. My parents are always telling me about the good old days of their generation, reminiscing upon a simpler time when kids used to play outside and have more family time, instead of being attached to their devices. And yet again, here we are in 2021, living a different world, going to school remotely and trying to work remotely. This is yet another example of humanity's being at crossroad, where we have tried to figure solutions and problems we're being bombarded with constantly. And the truth of the matter is that humanity will always find itself at crossroad. Our forefathers have seen it in their lifetimes and future generations, and they will continue to witness it as well. New problems will always arise in the face of humanity, though we fear that humanity will be severely compromised, but yet we are ready to take counter-reaction these challenges by working together. Humanity finds its way to come together to fix problems. We always have and we always will. We cannot live a perfect world without realizing that there will always be those who critique and those who criticize. As for the future generations, we need to find a lens on focus on how we can cope with our current situations and find solutions to come together. That gives a sense of peace and understanding and what I can do to make a difference. But like every problem, we need sustainable goals that we can outlive our generation. We know the issues and we know how to combat them. We just need the awareness to know how. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers for truly amazing speeches. Being able to hear such thought-provoking and insightful ideas, especially in these times, is so meaningful. Additionally, thank you to all of our partners, the University of Houston, Houston Community College, Stafford Municipal School District, the Sugar Land Toastmasters Club, and Ismaili Professionals Network for helping us put together an amazing World Speech Day 2021. On behalf of the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center, we thank everybody listening in today across the globe. We hope that you truly enjoyed this event. To get information about the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center, please visit the.ismaili. And for information on upcoming events, you can visit facebook.com/theismailiusa. We look forward to sharing future programming with you. Thank you and good evening.